The Arsonist Revenge. The Price of Silence. Prologue. The town of Millfield rested in the cradle of rolling hills, its Victorian-era clock tower visible for miles. For generations, it had been the kind of place where everyone knew their neighbors, where summer festivals brought the entire community together, and where Mayor James Sullivan had built his life, his family, and his reputation. What the citizens of Millfield didn't know was that their beloved mayor carried a dark secret, one buried 6 months ago on a rainy night on Oak Ridge Road, when his black sedan swerved violently on the wet pavement. They didn't know about the sound that haunted his dreams. The sickening thud as his car struck Eleanor Reed, a retired schoolteacher walking home from her book club. They didn't know that in a moment of panic, intoxicated and high, he had driven away, leaving her broken body on the roadside in the rain. And they certainly didn't know that Eleanor's son, Marcus Reed, had returned to Millfield with meticulous plans for justice. Part 1. The First Flames. Mayor James Sullivan stood at the window of his office, his manicured hands gripping a tumbler of bourbon disguised as iced tea. At 46, he cut an impressive figure, silver threading through his dark hair, giving him a distinguished look that had served him well through 3 terms in office. The town newspaper had once described him as having the trustworthy face of Millfield itself. The irony wasn't lost on him. His phone buzzed. It was Martha, his assistant. "Sir, the fire chief is here to see you." James straightened his tie, tucked a breath mint into his mouth to mask the alcohol, and slid the tumbler into his desk drawer beside the prescription pill bottles. "Send him in." Fire Chief Hank Reynolds entered, his uniform smelling faintly of smoke. "Mayor, we've confirmed it was arson at the old boathouse." The old boathouse. James felt his stomach tighten. His father had taught him to fish there. Later, as a teenager, it was where he'd first kissed his now wife, Diane. 3 summers ago, he'd restored it himself, spending weekends with his son Tyler, teaching him the same skills his father had taught him. "Any leads?" James asked. "Nothing concrete. Professional job. They knew exactly how to start it to maximize damage while minimizing risk of spread. The only thing that strikes me as odd is that they left this." Reynolds handed James a simple white envelope. Inside was a newspaper clipping from 6 months ago. "Local teacher dies in hit-and-run accident. Police seek witnesses." James's hand trembled slightly. "Probably teenagers being dramatic," he said, sliding the clipping into his desk drawer. "Keep me updated." After Reynolds left, James locked his office door, dry swallowed 2 anxiety pills, and poured another drink. The boathouse was just a building, he told himself. Just wood and nails. But deep down, he knew this was just the beginning. Part 2. The pattern emerges. The second fire came 3 weeks later. This time, it was the gazebo in Founders Park, where James had announced his candidacy for mayor 12 years ago. Where he and Diane had been married 20 years earlier. The third fire, a month after that, claimed the historic Millfield Library. As a boy, James had spent countless hours hidden among its stacks, escaping a turbulent home life. It was where he discovered books on law and politics that had shaped his future. With each fire, James spiraled deeper. His drinking increased. The pills, originally prescribed for back pain, became a necessary crutch to make it through meetings, family dinners, public appearances. He began to see accusation in every gaze, suspicion in every question. His sleep was fractured by nightmares of Eleanor Reed's body crumpled on wet asphalt. After the library fire, another envelope appeared. This time, a photograph of James's car from the night of the accident, the dent in its hood clearly visible. On the back, handwritten, "I know what you did." James increased his security detail, claiming threats related to controversial town development plans. Inside, he was coming apart. Part 3. The breaking point. Diane Sullivan knew something was wrong with her husband. The man who'd once bounded out of bed at dawn now struggled to rise before 9. His eyes were perpetually bloodshot, his temper short. Twice she'd found him asleep in his study, reeking of alcohol. "It's the stress of these fires," he told her when confronted. "I'm handling it." Tyler, their 15-year-old son, was less easily placated. "Dad's acting weird," he told his mother one evening. "He almost crashed the car driving me home from practice yesterday. I think he was high on something." Diane had dismissed it, but the seed of doubt was planted. The fourth fire targeted the Millfield Academy, James's high school alma mater. The blaze was contained to the East Wing, specifically, the drama auditorium where James had overcome his childhood stutter to become a debate champion. Where he'd found his voice. That night, James didn't come home. Diane found him at 3 a.m., sitting in his car in the academy parking lot, staring at the charred remains of the building. When she opened the door, pill bottles rolled out onto the pavement. "I can't do this anymore," he whispered. She drove him home in silence, her mind racing. The next morning, while James slept, she searched his office and found the newspaper clippings, the photograph, and a journal filled with rambling, guilt-ridden entries. Diane made 2 calls. One to Dr. Sarah Winters, the town's most respected therapist, and one to James's deputy mayor, informing him that the mayor would be taking a brief leave of absence for health reasons. Part 4. Confrontation. Marcus Reed rented a small apartment above the hardware store on Main Street. From his window, he could see the mayor's office, the police station, and the courthouse. A triangle of power that had failed his mother. At 36, Marcus had his mother's patient eyes and methodical mind. He'd been living in Seattle when the call came about her death. The police investigation had gone nowhere. No witnesses. No justice. It had taken Marcus only 2 months of careful research to piece together what had happened. Credit card receipts showing the mayor at a bar the night of the accident. Vehicle repair records. A bartender who remembered the mayor's state when he left. A street camera from a block away that caught the distinctive taillights of the mayor's sedan. Now, with each calculated fire, Marcus was burning away the mayor's facade. The places that had shaped him, that had given him pride. The stages for his public life. Marcus wasn't interested in harming anyone physically. His mother had taught kindergarten for 30 years, she would never have wanted violence in her name. But she deserved acknowledgement. She deserved justice. And James Sullivan deserved to lose his peace of mind, just as Marcus had lost his. Part 5. Therapy sessions. Dr. Sarah Winda's office was deliberately bland, neutral colors, comfortable furniture, nothing that would distract from the work of healing. For 3 weeks now, Mayor Sullivan had occupied her 2 p.m. slot on Tuesdays and Fridays. "I should be handling the investigation," James said, pacing the room. "The fires are clearly targeted. At you specifically, or at the town's landmarks?" Dr. Winters asked. James hesitated. This was the edge of his confession, the boundary he'd been circling. "At me," he finally said. "They're places from my life. Important places." Dr. Winters nodded. "And why would someone target you this way?" Quote. In that moment, something broke in James Sullivan. The careful wall of denial, of self-protection, crumbled. He sank into the chair and told her everything, the drinking, the pills, the accident, Eleanor Reed. "I killed her," he whispered. "I was drunk and high, and I hit her, and I just drove away. I've been living with it every day since." Dr. Winda's expression remained professional, but her mind was working through the ethical implications. Patient confidentiality had limits, particularly with ongoing crimes. "James," she said carefully, "what you've shared involves a serious criminal matter. I cannot legally protect this information." James nodded, looking almost relieved. "I know. I think I'm ready to face it." Part 6. The final fire. The news broke on a Tuesday. Mayor Sullivan confesses to fatal hit and run. By Wednesday, the town was in turmoil. Protesters gathered outside the Sullivan home. The district attorney announced formal charges. James's lawyer negotiated terms of surrender. That night, the fifth and final fire claimed the Overlook, a historic restaurant perched on the hillside above Millfield. It was where James had proposed to Diane, where they celebrated anniversaries and birthdays. The place he'd planned to retire to once his political career ended. As the Overlook burned, the Sullivan family was packing. Diane had decided they would stay with her sister in Vermont until the legal proceedings concluded. Tyler, silent and angry, threw clothes into a suitcase, refusing to meet his father's eyes. "I almost lost you both," James said quietly as they worked. Diane paused, her expression complex. "What do you mean?" Quote. James showed her the final note that had been delivered to their home that morning. The boat shed. The gazebo. The library. The auditorium. The restaurant. Your family was next on my list, but you've finally done the right thing. Diane felt cold fear wash over her. The night before, she and Tyler had been at the Overlook for dinner, leaving early only because Tyler wasn't feeling well. Who is doing this? She whispered. James closed his eyes. Someone who loved Eleanor Reed as much as you loved Tyler. Part 7. Resolution. Marcus Reed watched from his apartment window as the Sullivan family departed in a black SUV, police escort leading the way. His work was finished. The investigation into the fires would continue, but Marcus had been methodical. No fingerprints. No witnesses. Nothing that would connect back to the quiet man who'd arrived 6 months ago to settle his mother's affairs. In his kitchen, he burned the final pieces of evidence, maps, schedules, receipts. Then he packed his own bags. He had accepted a teaching position in Oregon, carrying on his mother's legacy in education. Before leaving Millfield forever, Marcus visited his mother's grave one last time. It's done, he said to the headstone. He's going to pay for what he did. Not enough, never enough, but something. Epilogue. 2 years later. James Sullivan served 14 months in a minimum security prison for vehicular manslaughter and leaving the scene of an accident. The Reed family received a 7-figure settlement from his personal assets. Upon release, James moved with Diane and Tyler to a small town in Maine, where no one knew their history. He worked as a consultant for a nonprofit focused on addiction recovery. 3 times a week, he attended meetings. Twice monthly, he saw a therapist. The relationship with his son remained strained but was slowly healing. Tyler, now applying to colleges, had chosen to study criminal justice, a decision James accepted with painful irony. At night, James still sometimes dreamed of fires. Of Eleanor Reed. Of all he had lost. But in the morning, he rose without reaching for pills or alcohol. He faced each day with the clarity that comes only from having lost everything that once seemed important, and finding what truly was. In Oregon, Marcus Reed taught 4th grade. His students adored him. If they noticed that their teacher grew quiet and distant each year on the anniversary of his mother's death, they didn't mention it. Justice, Marcus had learned, was not always delivered by the system designed to protect it. Sometimes it came from unexpected places, in unexpected ways. And sometimes the greatest punishment was not prison, but the moment when a person finally sees themselves clearly. The fires had long been extinguished in Millfield. But their light had illuminated truths that could never again be hidden in darkness.